When love turns to ashes, what remains? He had seen it coming long before everything fell apart. The warmth in her eyes had faded, her voice had lost its softness, and her touch, once familiar, now recoiled in silent contempt. She made no effort to hide her disdain, no attempt to preserve the illusion of love. It was obvious, painfully so. And yet, she hadn't left. Why was she dragging out the inevitable? Why not walk away and end it clean? Maybe she enjoyed watching him break, waiting for him to surrender, to hand over the house, the money, the last remnants of their life together. But she had miscalculated. He wasn't the kind of man who simply walked away. Tonight, everything would change. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now, let's get started. I had seen it coming, but all the anticipation in the world hadn't truly prepared me for the reality. The veiled jabs, the absence of warmth, the way she recoiled from even the lightest touch, it all pointed to the same conclusion. Whether she was already unfaithful, contemplating it, or simply worn down by our marriage, the result was the same. I had made my peace with losing her, and truthfully, she had made it easy over the past several months. What I couldn't wrap my head around was why she hadn't just left. Why prolong the inevitable? Why not walk out and be done with it? We weren't sitting on a fortune. Our finances weren't even tangled enough to make separation complicated. The house was paid off, but that was only because it had belonged to my grandmother. We moved in after she passed, which made things simpler than if we had bought it outright. Even then, something had felt off. I had spoken to my parents about my concerns, and they had agreed to keep the deed in their names for a year, just in case. Before that, we had lived in another house, technically, one I co-owned with the bank. We spent 6 years there until one careless night when Sabrina had one glass of wine too many, drifted off to sleep, and left half a dozen candles burning. One sat too close to the curtains. The fire alarms startled her awake, and she managed to get out, but by the time the fire department arrived, the living room was already an inferno. I arrived just as the firefighters did. I told them about my firearm collection and the stockpile of ammunition inside. Right on cue, a few rounds started popping off from the heat, forcing them to step back and let the place burn. One of my closest friends happened to be the station captain, and he wrote up the report in a way that helped with our insurance claim. Lucky for us, the policy didn't exclude sheer negligence. We received a payout. Not much, just $30, but more than I had expected. It was enough to get us settled in my grandmother's house. Now, with only $20 left to our names, I knew she would take half. Enough to get herself a decent apartment. As for me, I had ensured that once everything was split, she wouldn't walk away feeling triumphant. I had braced myself for the betrayal, but I hadn't expected her to be so shameless about it. My work hours stretched later than hers, especially in the winter months when the sun dipped below the horizon early. That night, I noticed her car missing from the garage, and the porch light was off. Stepping inside, I called her name. Silence. Then, I found her sitting at her vanity, meticulously applying her makeup. She wore a sleek, new black dress, shorter than anything she'd ever worn in my presence, with a neckline that left almost nothing to the imagination. I stood there for a moment, waiting for her to acknowledge me. "Going somewhere?" I asked at last. "No," she replied, adjusting her lipstick. "I am." I already knew what she was about to say, but I let her say it anyway. "I have a date." She expected fireworks. I just stared. The silence unsettled her. "Did you hear me?" she snapped. "I said I have a date, with someone else." "No," I said evenly. She turned to face me, brows knitting together. "What?" I said no. Her lips curled into a smirk. "You think you can tell me no?" "That's right. You can see whoever you want, do whatever you want. The moment you move out, I'll handle the divorce paperwork as soon as possible. But as long as we're living under the same roof, you're not doing this here. Pack a bag and stay somewhere else for a few days. Give me time to arrange things, and then we'll finalize everything." She let out a sharp, bitter laugh, like a crow cawing. "I'm not going anywhere. You are. I like this house, and when it's mine, I'll finally be able to decorate it how I want. If you push back, we'll have to sell, and I'll end up with most of the money. Do yourself a favor. Go stay with your parents until this is over," I told her. "Number. You're the one who needs to leave," she shot back. I smiled. "Oh, I will, in about 30 minutes. But if you're still here when I get back, I'll call the cops." For the first time, her confidence wavered. "I could make a phone call myself," she sneered. "All I have to do is tell them you got violent, and they'll keep you locked up for 48 hours. More than enough time to change the locks and file a restraining order." I held my smile. "Don't do something stupid." She scoffed. "Face it, Stephen. This is done. You're screwing it all up. Life's a bitch, and then another one takes you for everything." She turned back to the mirror, admiring her reflection. "This shade of red is perfect, don't you think?" I didn't answer. I simply walked out. She wouldn't risk having her date pick her up here, which meant she'd have to meet him somewhere. I stepped into the garage, grabbed my aluminum baseball bat, and swung. 4 solid hits later, her headlights and taillights were nothing but shattered glass. Back inside, I spotted her purse on the counter. Inside, I found a 6-pack of condoms before pulling out her phone. Not wanting to cause a scene, I took it to the garage, removed the battery, set it on my workbench, and smashed it with a hammer until it was in 3 neat pieces. Then I reassembled the phone, minus the battery, and slipped it back into her bag. I briefly considered messing with the condoms but decided against it. She'd only find a way to pin that on me. Pouring myself a cup of coffee, I leaned against the counter just as she strutted into the kitchen, heels in hand, scowl on her face. "Out," she ordered, pointing at the door. I took a slow sip of my coffee, unfazed. She sighed, rolling her eyes. "Fine. If that's how you want to play it, expect the police soon. You might want to call your dad. Make sure he's got bail money ready." I took another sip. I wasn't worried. Why would the police come? I hadn't threatened her, hadn't laid a hand on her. All I'd done was refuse to be forced out of my own home. "That's not what I'll tell them," she snapped. "You threatened me when I brought up the divorce. You got aggressive, started yelling. I don't feel safe." I knew how this worked. The authorities always sided with the woman. "I mean it, Stephen. You've got 30 minutes before I make the call." She turned sharply, or at least tried to. Her impractical heels made it more of a struggle than a statement. 5 minutes later, her voice carried through the door. When she stormed back inside, her eyes blazed with fury. "You bastard! What the hell did you do to my car?" Leaning against the wall, I kept my expression cool. "Why would you assume I did anything? Maybe you shouldn't leave it unattended for so long." She hesitated, then shook her head, as if dismissing the thought. "Doesn't matter. I'll just call him. He'll pick me up. And when he does, I'll make sure you see me kiss him before we leave. Don't be surprised if my head disappears in the car before we even drive off." I smirked. Her confidence wavered. "Go ahead. Call him. I'd love to meet him. Maybe I'll tell him how unhinged you are. Hope he doesn't believe in lifelong commitment because you sure don't." Her frustration boiled over when she realized her phone was dead. Huffing, she stormed off, only to return moments later, barefoot, heels in hand. "Have a great night," I called out, grinning as she stomped away. Her furious curses echoed down the block, but the best part? Watching her knock on the first neighbor's door, only to be turned away. She tried house after house, working her way down the street. Eventually, she caught on. No one was letting her in. "Thanks, Mom." I had called her earlier, knowing exactly how this might unfold. She'd handled the rest, warning the neighbors. I'd grown up here. People liked me. Her? Not so much. She would find a phone eventually. All I had to do was wait. Sure enough, 20 minutes later, flashing lights filled the street. What I hadn't expected was that she'd circled back, lurking in the shadows, waiting for them to arrive. One of the officers was familiar. We'd gone to high school together. "Come in," I said, waving them inside. "Coffee?" They exchanged glances. "This is a domestic disturbance call," one of them said cautiously. I spread my arms. "Do you see any broken furniture? Any bruises? Torn clothes?" They glanced around, shaking their heads. "So what makes you think anything happened?" "She claims you threatened her, Stephen," my former classmate said. "Said you told her you were going to hurt her for leaving. Sorry, but the law is clear. We have to take you in." "That's a serious accusation," I replied. "How serious is filing a false police report?" The male officer finally spoke. "If you have proof of that, now's the time to show it." So I did. I pulled out my phone and played the footage from the hidden camera I'd set up earlier. Both officers frowned as they watched. "Well," my old classmate muttered, "that changes things. A false report is out of your hands, Stephen. That's for us to deal with. But you can use this to get a restraining order. She's on camera, making threats. That's more than enough to keep her away." "You should file for one first thing in the morning," the male officer advised. "List our names as witnesses. In the meantime, keep her out. If she tries to get back in, call us. And Stephen?" My classmate gave me a pointed look. "I remember how you get when someone wrongs you. Don't do anything stupid. Let it play out in court. Walk away. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am. Sergeant Sweetcheeks." I smirked. "Oops. My bad. I know no one's called you that since high school, especially now that you're packing heat. Hard habit to break. Still, can't hide it in that uniform. World-class ass. Whoever's with you now is a lucky guy, Heather." Her face flushed bright red, and she stormed out. Seemed I had a talent for irritating every woman I talked to that night. The male officer chuckled. "Sweet cheeks? Heh. You're not wrong, though. World class. But she's single. Just got out of a nasty divorce. You're not the only one dealing with an ex who's already moved on. Do us a favor. Don't make us come back tonight." They wouldn't have to. While I was chatting with them, my soon-to-be ex had slipped into the garage. I knew exactly what she was thinking: steal my car and disappear. One problem: she'd left her keys on the kitchen counter, and with the cops around, she couldn't just walk back in to get them. Then she spotted something: my spare keys sitting on the workbench. That was her mistake. She had always despised that vehicle. The first time she saw it, she dubbed it the Monster, a massive but pristine 1989 full-sized Suburban. It dwarfed both our sedans. I only drove it for hauling or towing a friend's boat. She figured she could make a quick escape. What she didn't realize was that I had disabled the garage opener, just in case. She started the engine, its roar deafening in the small space. She hit the button to lift the garage door and waited, assuming it had risen all the way. Then she floored it. She should have flipped on the lights. If she had, she would have noticed that the garage door remained firmly shut. Instead, the brute force of the 454 engine, combined with the raw torque from its low gearing, obliterated that mistake in an instant. The car rocketed backward, shrieking as it shredded through the metal barrier before slamming full force into a police cruiser. The impact was so severe that it sent the squad car skidding several feet, its front end crumpled beyond recognition. Just as Heather reached for the door handle, the monstrous vehicle burst from the garage like an untamed beast. 5 seconds later, and it could have been a massacre. Even so, her partner took the hit hard. He had just opened his door, 1 foot poised to step in, when the collision's force sent him hurtling 10 feet down the driveway. Heather, a redhead as fierce as her temper, didn't hesitate. While I rushed to check on Officer Johns, she was already yanking my stunned wife from the driver's seat by her hair, shouting the entire time, "Get on the ground! Now!" Sabrina barely managed a feeble groan, her body limp from the shock. Once Heather had her wrists locked in cuffs, she bolted back to her radio, barking into the receiver. "Officer down! Officer down! Dispatch! We need medical and backup at 411 immediately!" Johns was unconscious. The squad car's door had smacked into him hard, his nose clearly shattered. Kneeling beside him, I cradled his head carefully, ensuring his airway stayed clear and that he didn't choke on his own blood. Time crawled at a torturous pace, and I sat there, holding him, for what felt like an eternity, though my watch said 20 minutes, until the first ambulance finally rolled up. Within another 10 minutes, the scene transformed into a swarm of flashing lights and uniforms. Every available officer had converged on the area. Since her cruiser was out of commission, Heather rode with Johns to the hospital, having already given her statement and directing the investigating officer to me for additional details. Sabrina was loaded into another ambulance, her injuries mostly minor, some bruising, a few contusions from the airbag, and a solid case of whiplash. I spent the next couple of hours giving my statement 4 different times before they were satisfied. Small towns being what they are, I recognized several officers, including the one leading the investigation, an old friend's dad who had coached our junior high baseball team. "Any update on John's, coach?" I asked. Regardless of his official rank, he would always be coach to me. "No definitive word yet, Stephen," he replied. "But from what I'm hearing, it doesn't seem too serious. We'll know more after the MRI and X-rays." I thanked him and turned to leave, but he called out after me. "By the way, your wife's doing just fine, assuming you consider racking up every charge we could throw at her fine. Any chance you can tack on reckless stupidity? No? Damn shame." The fallout unfolded as expected. Sabrina posted bail using our joint bank account, withdrawing $19,000 and leaving me with a pathetic grand. She needed the cash to repay her parents, who had fronted the bail money, and to hire a decent lawyer. We communicated only through legal representatives, thanks to the restraining order still in effect. Our first face-to-face legal battle was a disaster, for her. I had brought my parents along, knowing their testimony would be relevant. Her attorney wasted no time stating her demands. She wants the house, or at minimum, half of its value. I had seen that move coming a mile away. She had a realtor buddy lined up to buy the property, only to flip it back to her using the sale proceeds as a down payment. She knew I'd never sell it to her willingly. My lawyer, silent as ever, slid a document across the table. Sabrina's attorney scanned it, his face draining of color. Sabrina, however, exploded. "What the hell is this?" Her lawyer let out a resigned sigh. "His father owns the house. Stephen's name isn't on the deed. You can't claim half of something he never legally owned." Still seething, she pivoted to her next demand. "My client requests all the new furnishings in the house, including the living and dining sets, bedroom furniture, silverware, and every kitchen appliance." Once again, my lawyer had the answer locked and loaded. He produced bank statements proving that every single purchase had been made with my father's checks. Our system was simple. Sabrina and I would pick out furniture, I'd drive her home, then return with Dad and his truck to finalize the payment. "None of the furniture qualifies as community property," my lawyer explained flatly. "However, my client is willing to let you choose one bedroom set as a courtesy." When all was said and done, she left, nearly empty-handed. That weekend, I repaired her car and discreetly dropped it at her parents' house while they were out, probably busy scrambling to gather more bail money. She could keep the vehicle, along with the last 10 payments still due on it. By the time the divorce case reached the judge, he barely concealed his amusement as he reviewed the documents in his chambers. He attempted to maintain a professional demeanor, but failed, shaking his head with a smirk. "Well played, son. You cut her off at the knees. You saw this coming, didn't you?" I shrugged. Not the specifics, but I knew it wouldn't end cleanly. Just covering my bases. Technically, she still owes me $9 from what she withdrew, but if she signs the papers, I'll let it slide. He chuckled approvingly. "Sounds fair." Back in the courtroom, he turned to Sabrina. "Everything is in order. I have no authority to alter any of it. However, Mr. Carter has agreed to let you keep the money if you sign the divorce papers now. Otherwise, he intends to pursue restitution." Seething but out of moves, she grabbed the pen and scrawled her name across the documents. The judge banged his gavel, sealing my freedom. As for her, she had far bigger problems ahead, chief among them the charges for filing a false police report and ramming a cop with a car. She had lost everything. And me? I walked away, future intact, with not a single regret. They stacked up a ridiculous list of charges against her, mostly baseless, because they were furious over what happened with Officer John. Nearly all of them got dismissed, and in the end, she walked away with nothing more than a year of probation. A month later, I ran into her at Walmart, of all places. She wanted to talk, so we grabbed some drinks from the subway inside and sat down. It took her a moment to gather her thoughts. "Why did you treat me so badly?" she finally asked. I could have thrown the same question back at her. "When did you decide to check out of our marriage?" You could have been honest and ended things the right way, instead of dragging it out and making those last months miserable. "And why did you go out of your way to flaunt your new relationship in front of me?" She sighed, hesitating before answering. "You knew me well enough to realize I wasn't going to just accept it quietly." Another pause. I wasn't happy. Hadn't been for a long time. Losing our house in the fire, having to move here, leaving behind everything we built. I hated all of it. I think that's where it all started. Looking back, she admitted, "You were a good man. I should have just told you how I felt." I shook my head. "That might be the dumbest thing you've ever said. You never once told me you wanted to stay. I wasn't thrilled about moving either. I liked where we were. If you'd just spoken up, we could have used the insurance money to get another place. Even after we moved, we could have gone back." I met her eyes. "But let's be real. You didn't want to fix things. You wanted out. So why drag it out with all the drama?" She hesitated again. "I blamed you for everything. It wasn't really about being with someone else. I just wanted to hurt you." She looked down, ashamed. "I'm sorry for how I acted. You were right, we should have just talked and ended things on better terms." I stood up, feeling like I'd heard enough. "Well, that was enlightening. You need help, Sabrina." I didn't sugarcoat it. "I hear you're moving back home, so I doubt we'll run into each other again. Try to live a good life. And if you ever fall in love again, maybe learn from what happened between us." I didn't bother saying goodbye. Just walked away. 4 years later, I returned to town for a friend's funeral. I spotted her across the room. She looked mostly the same, maybe a few pounds heavier, her hair longer. She saw me too and smiled, but we didn't speak. That was fine by me. Some things are better left in the past. 2 years after everything unraveled, I ran into Sergeant Sweet Cheeks at the gun range. She was in jeans, still had that knockout figure. We caught up, and she mentioned she was engaged to Officer John, who had fully recovered. He'd scored a hefty settlement from my auto insurance, and they were using it for a down payment on a house. 18 months later, I saw her again and asked how marriage was treating her. She snorted. "He doesn't appreciate my ass as much as you did." I raised an eyebrow. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Caught him with another ass. A man's, actually. Let's just say things didn't end well." I smirked. "I'd like to say I'm sorry, but I'm not." She looked at me, surprised. "Why not?" "Because now you're single again," I said with a grin. "Back in high school, I never got a shot with you. Maybe this is my chance. And for the record, it's not just about your world-class backside. I like everything attached to it, including that sharp mind of yours." She blushed, but laughed. "If you're thinking what I think you're thinking, I'd have to arrest you. Anal's still illegal in 9 states. I grinned. Is this one of them? Nope. You got lucky. She tilted her head. If you actually like me, not just my body, and you're willing to treat me right, you might find I have a few secrets worth sharing. She checked her watch. Pick me up at 7, wear a suit, and don't say anything stupid. I showed up on time, dressed to impress. As my wife of 6 years will tell you, I never quite kicked the habit of saying dumb things, but our 5-year-old daughter is doing her best to train it out of me. Whether that's genetics or environment, I don't know, but I'm smart enough not to complain. I didn't get her into bed until 9 months after our first date, on our wedding night, worth every second of the wait. And it's Captain Sweet Cheeks now. I may say stupid things, but I know better than to call her that in public. In private, though, she still likes it. As for Sabrina, she had to go to therapy as part of her probation. No idea if it did her any good. She remarried, twice. The second guy seems to be sticking. He keeps a close eye on her, and when she starts acting up, he reminds her that I wasn't the only man who knew how to play the long game. Apparently, that keeps her in check, at least according to her cousin, who keeps me updated. Good for her, I guess. Today, our daughter Kelly got married. Our gift to her was my grandmother's old house. Heather never really cared for it, and after my parents passed, we moved into their big, rambling 2-story farmhouse. One day, our son Anthony will inherit it, but hopefully not for a long time. After the wedding, I surprised Chief Sweet Cheeks with tickets for a river cruise, a 25th anniversary gift. She'd always wanted to go, and I'd finally saved up enough to make it happen. 2 weeks floating through Europe, her dream trip. It earned me some unforgettable nights, and a rare opportunity to experience something she usually kept off limits. Gotta go. Sweet Cheeks is calling me back to bed, handing me a little blue pill and a glass of water. Looks like this vacation just got even better. This story has come to an end. When love fades, everyone has a choice. Leave with dignity, or start a war where no one truly wins. Manipulation, lies, and revenge never bring happiness. They only prolong the inevitable and leave nothing but destruction behind. This story is a reminder that self-respect is more valuable than clinging to something that's already dead. If a relationship turns into a battlefield, the smartest move is to walk away. In the end, you can't change the past, but your future is entirely in your hands. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.